been helping, and it's going to help us today. So to give you a little background, the whole idea of this cognitive repatterning, or how to repattern or scramble things that get stuck in our subconscious, was first introduced to me, I guess it was about 1980 or so. And I was studying with Richard, who was a friend, and we went every week to these macrobiotic classes for about a year. And then we did all sorts of other things. And then we would go off to different conferences. He was not a honey. I was married at the time, but we were really good friends. And Richard was a real handsome guy. He was tall and slender. He was a postman, so we delivered mail, and that took him walking a lot during the day with a heavy post bag. And then he would come home and he'd jog like 10 miles. And I remember we were at a conference, and he had his little Speedos, and he came out like this, and all the girls were, who's that? And so I said something to Rich, like, well, you made quite an impression down at the swimming area. But he didn't grasp that. And as I started to talk to him, I realized that he thought that he was totally unpracticed. And he thought he was just a loser. And was very, very shy about talking to women. He was about 35 then, and he really hadn't dated a whole lot. He'd certainly never been married. And as I listened to his story, he shared with me that he was the oldest child of a family of about 10 children. They were a Catholic family, and he was going to like a private school for boys, where he wore all white. And his junior year, he decided, I am done with this. I want to meet girls. I want to go to public school and talk to parents. And he was the oldest. So there really wasn't money for him to buy clothes. I mean, he mostly had to wear the white pants and the white shirt. So he goes to school. He's all excited. He's seeing these girls. He's really, really psyched about it. And sure enough, about 6 weeks later, this girl comes up and invites him to. So excited. He ran home and he told his brother, invited to a dance. And his brother said, oh, Richard, that's a nerd dance. She invited you because she thinks you're a nerd. You know, it's like stabbed him in the heart. You know how these things happen? You know, a lot of times we have these things. He was so excited. And now, if you analyze the story, well, maybe just because he was wearing white. Or maybe she didn't think he was a nerd. Because he was pretty cute as an adult. He was probably cute as a teenager. But that got stuck in him. And that made me realize that I had a very similar thing happen to me when I was like, I think it was in junior high. And there was a new guy that had moved into the neighborhood. And somebody had told him to come over and meet me. I was kind of psyched about that. And when I was walking to school, it was pretty cute. Donnie. So he knocks on the door. I had my own door to my bedroom. He knocks on the door and I come out. And he goes, oh, you. I've seen you before. You're ugly. It was that same thing. You know, it was exactly the same thing. And so that was kind of a quest because I began to realize that talk therapy is one thing, which is a lot of what I've learned about. But I began to understand how patterns get stuck in our subconscious. And that's a PTSD kind of thing. It's something that's traumatic that happens to us. And it's just kind of a minor thing sometimes. But it can shape our whole life. And that, along with a mother that was very, very difficult and really didn't know how to compliment me, made me just feel like I was a total loser and really not attractive and nobody would love me. So that's a pattern that I think a lot of us have. And it's taken a long time to get past that. So I had this idea in mind, like how do you just get things out of the subconscious? And I learned, I guess it was probably in the quite a while ago, in the early 90s or so, I started to learn about Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which is the science and the language of the brain. And so how, using our senses and our voice tones and many other things, how we represent the world. How do we have situations that are negative, and why do they get shaped in and stuck in our subconscious as negative? I began to understand a little bit about that, and they had a center in Virginia Beach, and I thought, oh, I'd love to go study there, but it was way too expensive. And then I realized an hour away, there was a teacher in Baton Rouge when I was in Lafayette, Louisiana. And so I spent a couple of years, Saturday and Sunday for a weekend, studying this aspect of neuro-linguistic programming. And we'll play with it a little bit, but I wanted to give you another example. A friend of mine that came with me, a couple friends came with me, and her name was Liz. And she had lived in this most beautiful, beautiful farmhouse with her children. Her husband had been killed a few years back. It's a tragic story. But this was very stable. And one time, there was a whole set of windows in our where we were studying. And one time, some birds came up, and she was like, "Ah!" Which was odd because she just seemed so sure of herself. "Ah, I just hate birds. There's birds all over the farm, and I'm thinking of moving because all these birds." And so, like, oh, here's an opportunity. So our teacher had her get up and find the room, and she did a simple little process with her. A month went by, and the next month it was like 40. And we were like, how's Beth doing? What happened? And so Liz, our teacher, asked, our friend of Liz, she said, well, what did you notice? She said, oh, I was never really bothered by birds. And 40 of us saw that reaction. And that was a wonderful opportunity because we realized when something's gone, it's gone. And you really just don't remember it. So this is the kind of work that I've done a lot. I do it a lot of times with people when people don't necessarily know that I'm working with them. I'll just do little quiet things. But also I couple this a lot with flower essences. And flower essences are a homeopathic type of process working with flowers. And so they work also on these subtle patterns that get stuck within us. So often I'll do an hour session usually with somebody, and I'll follow it by a flower essence class, and that's really another talk that we're going to do in July. So I put the two of them together. And it's been really a joy. I feel that it was just kind of a spiritual decision to not teach as many classes because I just wanted to work more one-on-one with people. I was really missing not having the opportunity to do that. So, any questions about NLP at all? Anything that would give you enough of a little bit of an understanding that we try to scramble or enhance? So if somebody has something that is vague, like anxiety, I ask them to think of a particular situation, and then I'll just have them relax and close their eyes, and I'll ask a lot of very specific questions about it. Sometimes it may be like a situation that occurred, and we'll do some little technique, like going to the movie show. I just have you relax and imagine that you're walking into the movie theater and you're watching a movie and what happens is you scramble that around. Sometimes I do other techniques that also are kind of playful and simple. But the idea is that we're working at how we are seeing and feeling what's going on and how we can minimize and scramble and think of those. So I have one client that, I can't tell what's going on with the client, but there's something that happened with this person at the age of like 4 or 5. And somebody in the family said something that nobody would really even think that was that big of a deal. And yet, for her, it really was. And now, many, many years later, that was kind of a course in her life that made her decide, well, I'm not going to tell my mother anything, and I'm not going to do this. And just like a whole way of kind of stepping out and being careful and saying, no. Now, when we embrace that, and that's fine. Than many other opportunities. A lot of times we will also what we call future planning. Just kind of say, okay, now that I have this change, now that this is on, how is this affecting my life? Or sometimes I have people walk through this little timeline of birth, the present time, and just kind of, yes, this wasn't here. If that hadn't occurred, what would happen here? What would happen here? What would happen, and it's just a process for just does that make any sense? So what we'll do tonight is we'll first work with something that you want to have happen on intellectual history. During those classes that we did, I wanted to have a car. I didn't want a new car. I liked a new car. And this was an occupation, and I had looked everything. I wanted to Toyota Camry, but I just couldn't find anything. I didn't find anything I liked, and I didn't find anything that I could find. And so I thought, okay, we'll do the process, and this is similar to what we're doing. And we worked with how we feel. We worked with some things that I saw. We worked with different smells. So I began to visualize that here's this perfect. And I began to visualize my mind opening the door. And it's kind of like a da-da-da-da, you know, but like that. Oh, it smells good, has that new car smell. And then I wanted to be sure that it had like a surround sound. I wanted to have a moon roof in it. I wanted it to be preferably white, but I wasn't attached. And I realized as I was doing all this, I had to be sure to program in there that I wanted it to be affordable. And I wanted to be a really smooth, easy situation of procuring it. And so I went home, and it was a week or so later, and by Friday afternoon, I thought, you know, I want to kind of address this car issue. I haven't thought about it all week. And I just got this idea that I was going to drive about 45 minutes north of a different town that had Toyotas and advertised. And so I drove up there. And then I opened the door, and she said, wow, there's something about this car that really impressed me. I like the leather seats and the smell and music. And so then they got me in the small room behind the desk. Well, can I afford this? And I found out that they were going to give me a pretty good price on my car. So that was it. And then, so I was kind of figuring out what I could do. I knew I wouldn't finance it, and my banker said, well, give us an opportunity. Now, that was pretty exciting myself. But the day before, they said, I couldn't buy any cars. So they gave us an opportunity to give you a cheaper loan. What? I've never heard that before. So, while I was pondering, Friday afternoon, they said, hey, why don't you just drive it home? I said, well, 45 minutes, oh, just drive it home. That'll be fine. You just take it home, see if you like it, you keep your car here, bring it back Monday. I thought, well, I can't do that. But then I thought, well, maybe I will. And so I came to my little house, and I had lived in a neighborhood. Lafayette, everybody loves everybody. And there was a bunch of little kids that just adored me. So I drive in with the new car. Miss Deborah, new car. Can we go for a ride? So we got that figured out with the parents. And they're all 4 little girls, and we have the music on, the moon roof, and it was just kind of a magical time. And so I ended up buying the car, and I just loved it. And I loved it. I drove 100,000 miles before. I reluctantly traded it in. So this is the kind of thing that we want to look for. So I want you to think of a situation of something that you would like to have manifest in your life. Because we really understand that we can even be kind of the victim who walks through life like, oh, I don't know what happens to be right. But we don't want that. We want to be co-creators in our life. And we want to get very clear on what we want to have happen. And so this just makes it a little more clear. After we do this, and after we do the other one, I'll have you get some notes if you want. Because it's a very simple process that you can do with other things. So, you're ready? So write down or think of what your issue is, and I wanted to tell you my story initially, so that would give you a little bit of an idea. Now, I can't, of course, know, if I were working with you, I'd probably ask for one thing. I don't read a lot of information when I work with people. I don't read it, but it helps me if I have a little idea of information. So we're not going to do that, so I'm going to just kind of give you sort of vague questions. So let's just relax. Put stuff off of your lap. And then leave it to a little guided energy. So just take a few deep breaths. Look down and close your eyes. I'm going to sit down here. So take a couple of deep breaths. And as you relax, just allow your awareness to go to your heart. And take that awareness. And with the next breath, relax. Any tension that's in your head, moving away. Listen to your neck. Let it go down. Relax. Down to the arms. Let that tension go out. Another feeling down. Relax your abdominal chest. Let that tension go up your spinal column, all down to your legs. Just a couple more breaths. All the way. Now, bring up in your mind what you would like to know. And the first thing is imagine that you're looking at that clear eyes. So get down and notice what you have on your feet. Have anything else? And look out and notice what you see around you. In this situation that you want to have happen. Notice what it looks like around you. And notice the colors. And let the colors kind of float. an aggregate. Aggregate. So there's a few houses in one county. Yeah. The thing is, keep holding on to that. And I anchor that with rejection. So that's what they're really if there was just one of you, or I knew that you kind of felt you were really connected to always something that you really and that was the place that I'm not saying something about it. But the things that are those are like feedback. So just keep holding that because we certainly know often feel the potentiality that as we get really, really clear about what we do. So you might want to pump that around your computer. Like in the upstairs of the house, guys, quickly and easily.
But I'm actually in the same for a car.
Well, but now, in a few minutes, you can just give me, it's just very, very simple, but you have the courage to step into it. This is a lot of what the athletes do. You have the courage to be very, very, very specific. An important time to look on this is what you go to bed too. Because when you're going to sleep, your thoughts are specifically put into your subconscious and just kind of float around. So if you're going to sleep and you're worrying about something, that's not what you're going to do. We're going to do a little technique in a few minutes. Or we'll do something, and what I do is then I just say, I just turn it over to God and just say, you figure it out. So every morning, and look at that, just use some other words for that. But when you go to bed at night, it's a good opportunity to really concentrate. There's so many negative things that go on. It's hard, a lot of times we're like really upset about that. We're really cautious. So what else? What else?
Well, I realized I started working on something that I have a lot of anxiety about, and it was something that I wanted a specific outcome for. So I switched it up to something that was just something that I really want that's very positive, that didn't carry all that other stuff. Well, I'll save that for the second.
We'll save that, yeah, because I have much more complex things, but still fun.
And it was interesting how just in the process, I started out thinking it would be one thing, and just allowing myself to go on the journey, it ended up being something else. And where I was experiencing it, was very different from where I thought I would be experiencing it.
One thing I didn't add that's important to do is to say this or something for it. Because a lot of times when we're really focused on one specific thing, there's something that's better that we might not have thought. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's a kind of general. My example is that specific. I wanted to be wasn't too attached to something that I like and not bored and but I've noticed that a lot in the manifestation work that I'm doing. Sometimes if we just get the general parameters of what we want, what we end up is something that we never thought of. And we step into it and this is really amazing. Sometimes it takes a little while to see that too. Thousands of them.
There was all this murmuring of all the hundreds of conversations and all the sense of oils, and I went.
Smell incredible.
I went there with my roommates that I shared the hotel with, and we drove there together with each other or with probably. It's awesome. It's awesome.
So just keep feeling that. Really, it's already gotten programmed into you. It's already getting into your subconscious because we've used all those symptoms. We've really gotten rid of all of our symptoms. You've got time.
Didn't I have a negative experience where you couldn't quite visualize too well?
Any questions about this?
You can just set your intentions at night because so many times at night, like I was saying, we are reviewing the negative things. And then those get put into our subconscious. And during the night, that goes and tries to be resolved, and it goes up to the higher conscience. It goes out into the quantum field of potentiality. It's like, oh, this person wants to have more of these problems. Okay, we'll help them. We don't want that. So at night, we want to just be thinking of, like sometimes it's just as simple as like, oh, I'm really upset about this, but like, I'm just going to give it over about it. Give it over. I'm not going to think about it. And in the morning, I'm going to wake up and everything's going to look better. And often it does. So when you go to sleep at night, that last few 15 minutes or so, you don't want to be watching some gory TV show or all the drama and whatnot. You want to really be thinking about what you want to do. The first time I used a piece of time, I made the mistake of marrying a man that was so cute. A cutie. When I first moved to Quincy, I was overwhelmed with having inherited a farm, you know. And so I married him really fast, broke all my rules. So I got to learn about a lot of personality traits. And after a year and a half, I was a mess. I'd gotten rid of him, the police had hauled him out. I was just a mess. And my emotions were so bad that I realized, and I just couldn't turn them around. I mean, all that I knew, and I realized that if I didn't do something, I was going to make things. I was going to make myself really sick. I was going to have cancer or something. And so I remember I got out the piece in common. And I walked into the bathroom, and I put it on my feet, and I walked back to the bedroom, the small house, in that car. And all of a sudden, the thoughts just went away. It was a different chemistry in my body. Not that that did, but other things. It was just such an amazing experience to me. And then I realized I needed a little vacation just to get away from that. I knew I had to just not let these things really be that, because we know in the work that I do that people have some kind of serious illness. Often they have 2 or 3 very emotionally traumatic things going on in the last year. So anything we can do, let this go. Our next class is another very simple one for tonight's ministry. So, any questions? Going to bed now.
I think the problems that we have in our lives really the problems of things of they say the life that we have is much about how we think it's supposed to be.
Right? That's so true. We look at a situation
And to make it so much better.
Well, I've had situations where I've had things that you just know what's going on. You just know it. And where you would like to be is like a 4-foot brick and steel wall apart. You know, like there's no possible way that could happen. You just know that. And learning the techniques that I've learned, I think, okay, well, I'm just gonna imagine it. And in this situation, you were in your body. You weren't like looking at a movie screen. You stepped into your body, which is so important. So I would imagine, I could think of 2 cases where one I just imagined, look down my feet, my body, this is what's happening. And it wasn't maybe like 2 minutes and the phone rang. in everything. And I don't think that would happen at all. I feel kind of flustered, upset. That wasn't his Marvin. So we really are, we have a lot more charges in our life. So it's not that stuff isn't going to happen. I could tell you so many amazing stories about with myself or some of these things of work before. It's all going to come out okay. Which started a whole phenomenal chain of events that happened. I don't think you would have more in that. The positive experience. So it's very positive. You have to say that you want to be stepping into it. So when you're doing something positive, you want to be in your body. That's why I said to look down at your feet and notice that you're looking out from your mind. You want to be in your body. You want to feel what you're doing. You want to see it. Now, with the negative one, it's going to be a different. We don't want to be in the body. So, I want you to think of a situation, not like the mother lode thing, but just some situation, and I want you to number that between 1 and 10, 1 to 10. And so I don't want it to be a 10. I mean, I worked with somebody a couple of weeks ago that was just a situation that wasn't that dramatic of a situation, but it really felt like a 10. So, but I just don't want it to be like a major thing because I would be more elaborate about this. But just something, and I want you to write down what you feel now. Maybe something that happened today, this week, or not in your life. What did you do? Something negative, yes. We're going to work with getting rid of the negativity. Right. So I'm going to do a little relaxation again to just kind of get us so that we just back and so we can relax, use our imagination. Let's close our eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Again, just relaxing. And when you're ready, I want you to imagine this situation on the movie screen in front of you. And in this case, if you are looking up from your eyes, just step out of that picture, step back in your chair, sit down, and just look at that situation on the movie screen. Observe what happens. Listen to the words, sounds. Notice what you look like. Notice what your face looks like, your whole body structure, shoulders, slump down, your posture. If your posture will tell you a lot about what you're feeling, notice that. Notice the same thing that other people are saying. Notice what you feel. See, observe what's going on. What you feel. You feel steady. Bring your sound. So now, we want to imagine that's like a TV set with all static. So it starts to get some of that static. And then when I put my fingers, I snap my fingers, and it goes color, black. And there's also that, kind of that annoying sound that comes with just that picture being disturbed. Black and white, it's all scattered out, and notice that it's just going to be further over further horizon. And then allow that whole movie screen turn to the side. So there's just a black line. The corner of the line. Just the edge. It's all you can see. And then just allow that to go up. And hold it to God, higher self, faith, spirit, source, whatever. Just let it go. Notice what that feels like. Gone. Now quiet your eyes. Some kind of better outcome. Whether you know what that is, or just allow something much, much better to yourself. Clearly see what you want to replace that. How you want it to be, how you want the outcome to occur. You're done. You're done. Feel good about it. What do you know? What was it before? It felt good.
Down to a 4.8.
Was it 10 before it's still a 10? No, it wasn't. So I want to explain in both processes. So in this one, when you have something negative, we're looking at it from a distance now. When I'm working with the sessions, I go into a lot more detail because I want you to recognize what you feel, what the colors are, and all these different things that are going on. But this one, you want to be in a situation where you are disassociated. So you are looking at something from a distance, not from a distance. You just kind of step back and you're like up there and observing what's going on. It's a good place to be because when you're not in your body, you can see what you look like, you can observe the situation, and you're at more of a distance so you're not so caught up in it. So that was the first thing that you do when you're upset. Just try to, a lot of times we're looking, when you like looping over and over again, it's very frustrating. And so the first thing you have to do is get yourself calm down. You can calm you. And then step back from it so that you just see on the movie screen and observing what happens. That alone can sometimes be very interesting. You're watching what you do said, you're watching what the other person said. For me, I often go, well, I don't have to do that again. So sometimes at that point I realize, and I like to do that. I think it's a powerful position for me to notice what I could have done differently. I'm not blaming myself. Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't have shown up today. Maybe whatever it is. And that gives you a little distance. So then as you're watching that, what we did was take the situation and give it a color, and usually drama is a color, and we took it to black and white. And then we created it all static, and I had that static round out the sound. And then it just got smaller and smaller and smaller in the distance. If you wanted to keep the static down to that can let it come down. But I did it with I mentioned that earlier, because sometimes when you're upset, just open it, turn it around, and give it a. It's such a easy little tiny technique, but it can be very effective. And then when you do that, just let it go. If you're laying in bed or something, just get up, walk around, have a glass of water. So by the time you come back to bed for 6 hours, you want to let it change that situation. So it helps you realize that you have control in a very simple way to begin to start taking care of things. Because the more you're cogitating on something, it's not going to help. Once you let it go, then your whole body chemistry is going to change. Instead of having all these adrenaline chemicals running through your body and agitating you, you let that go, maybe listen to nice music, some oils, the endorphins start flowing and better place, and then you are more receptive for positive insights. Does that make sense? It's very easy. It's not one of those. It's very simple. It's not easy. That's been decades of learning simple process. Now with the positive one, you were in your body. And we have the colors real bright, and the sounds, and smells. And you want to make that very, very vivid. And the negative one is out of your body watching black and white. Because you don't want to be the person. And it was really amazing. Just turn it over and say, I'm not going to deal with this. This happened this is Christmas present. It's like this year. Diamond has been in the family for 100 years or so. And the goal for moms, couple moms were using that and they wanted to grow up on that something. And I just lost it. I couldn't find, I just got it at Christmas and I couldn't find it. I thought it was at home. And I looked everywhere and I just said, I'm not going to be upset about this. Although the days progressed, I had to do that hard one. And finally I realized that instead of like doing Anthony and all those like guys and let's find this, I just decided I'm just going to let this make this come. And I was rummaging through my jewelry box. I had a little side thing, and I was looking for a chain to put on my necklace, and I'm like, oh, what's this chain? Anyway, I picked it up. There was the necklace. So I don't know. Was it there all along? I don't know. But I could have been really upset for a whole week. Yeah, it does. It does. So it's just a matter of taking responsibility and using very, very simple techniques so that we can be empowered to co-create in a positive way. Because we did to be positive co-creators. We didn't come with stuff. A lot of stuff happened. But we want to have to allow that to turn into that makes sense. So do you have any questions? Really? Well, it very well could. You know, very well could that you like you might have other disorders. Well, that's getting rid of the negative. Right, hard to
find in that direction.
hard to take one. Yeah, and that's a microcosm. It's really clear on one particular.
Which can you do the same thing on different
Maybe. I was just learning on this anxiety issue, so it's one thing that was with this person answers, and then we try to not anticipate and then go ahead and this one very simple kind of technique like this. So much of my work is just having my eyes closed to So I see clients here on mostly Thursday, and evenings and Saturdays. I in my office with wrestling. Also Tuesday, Tuesday. I have my $10 off. This is a really good time of the year to really knock elbow patterns and work on rules that suits you on the year ahead. I just want you to know I'm doing this work and I'm doing this work. I have my calendar, I spread the word, I have all of these flyers and $50. Any questions? Trish is going to talk now about what oils further go along.
I have some thoughts for you. This is a wonderful technique that I first experienced as a young living intervention. It was led by Gary Young. And it's an emotional mind mapping technique. So, maybe for those of you who did find self-positive more challenging, or if you don't feel yourself being able to go into that movie in your mind, this is a very physical technique. One thing I learned about emotions from Gary Young is that when something happens to us that affects us strongly in a way that, let's say it's negative, let's go ahead and call it negative for a moment, but an experience that you really don't want to have happen. If we don't fully process it at that moment, it gets stored in the body until you're ready to process it. And the longer you go without processing it, the more deeply it gets rooted into the body. It creates a negative spin in your DNA and it gets stored there.
And if I might add, chemicals.
Right.
Chemical process that goes with it, it gets worse and worse and worse. The cells develop.
Yeah. And what we know from essential oils is that the sense of smell goes right to our emotional center. Our brain doesn't actually have to process an aroma for us to be affected by it. And oils have a really interesting ability to help lift us up and to help shift that well, they call it a sinister. Actually, left-hand people, sorry lefties, you're often referred to as sinister, but that left-handed spiral, that left-handed spin. And what we've learned is that actually talk therapy just kind of pushes you into that groove. So if you found yourself going through some talk therapy and you just feel like you're going in a circle over the same thing over and over again, you might want to try some of these techniques that help move things in a different direction, a different spiral. So this is a technique that you can do all on your own. All of the questions and thoughts to reflect on are here for you. The suggestions of oils to anoint yourself with. This first technique is about clearing an emotional situation for yourself. We start with the blend of Valor. So, okay, Valor 2 on the soles of the feet, on your shoulders to help ground and balance yourself. Acceptance. We have specific techniques. Put it clockwise on your forehead. And then reflect upon your questions. Are you a spectator or a participant? Are you rowing your own boat in your life? How interesting. Or are you riding a wave of life, but have you not yet put your board in the water? Or are you just coasting along, or are you really living? There's some affirmations for you here. And then the technique itself is a few pages later. It's emotional mapping. Did I not look up the old copy that I had highlighted? Of course I didn't, because that would be 2%. The things that I wanted to share specifically. Okay. So At the top of the page that has the little chart of an example of emotional mapping, there's an affirmation. I lovingly release and let go of all things that no longer serve me in a positive and progressive way. And you'll see that it specifically tells you to put a blend in your non-dominant hand, and then using the dominant hand, you're going to draw counterclockwise circles around these emotions and situations that you put in these little circles. And you can keep connecting it, keep going. As emotions come up around the situation, you connect it and you give them all a value. Like Deborah was doing on a scale from 1 to 10, what's the intensity of this emotion that's connected with this bigger thing? And you start with your big ones, you start with your 10s, and what color are they? Grab some crayons, grab some colored pencils, and do this counterclockwise circle around your 10s. And the interesting thing is, as you start this physical process and using the oils and the affirmation, you'll notice that some of the intensity comes off of that 10. Maybe it backs off to a 9 or an 8, or maybe even all the way down to a 6 or a 5. And as the intensity backs off, then move on to some of the other circles on your page. The next highest in intensity. So this is a really, I think, powerful tool. It erases unwanted energy at the DNA, RNA level by using this technique and helps resolve the negative programming that subconscious automatically responds to. And then, again, we also have a technique on top of it for dreaming, dream mapping. And you'll see another collection of oils, inspiration, dream catcher. Write down 5 things you want in your life, and you repeat the emotional mapping process, but this time you're going to give it a 1 to 10 in intensity, pick a color that goes with that intensity, anoint yourself, and this time you're going to be going clockwise. So you're going to be imprinting it on your DNA. And so I think these techniques really work beautifully hand in hand. The NLP, the techniques we learned tonight really tie into creative visualization for yourself. And this is a way to get it physically into your body because you're moving, you're inhaling essential oils, taking them right up to the olfactory bulb, right into the brain, and allowing them to help you shift what you want to shift. So I hope that you find this a valuable tool. It's one I love to spend some time with. Maybe one of the challenges of our modern life is actually taking the time for ourselves. But this is important, and we know when we walk into something that's an 8 or a 10, we know we need to take that time for ourselves to really address those things. Because if we don't, as Deborah suggested, if we don't fix our connection, our spiritual connection with the divine, if we don't feel emotional, these things can start to manifest physically. And we end up with dis-ease in the body. So take the time to lovingly care for yourself and offer yourself these techniques. Come work with Deborah, work with your essential oils, and we wish you great joy.
I want to add too that working has these different techniques children is so important. Children and young people, so that people don't have to worry so much stress.
And yours is a team work, right?
Yeah, I think this is really, there's so many things that's exciting about being on the planet. To learn how the mind works, how the body connects with it, to have some very simple to affect our life pretty darn good. We're very good.
Any questions? Maybe call it a night on this part of the presentation. I want to thank you all so much for coming out. For those of you that would like to stay, we're going to have a planning meeting on our sleep circle of success, skills building, and this is especially for those who are sharing Young Living and telling their friends about it. This is an opportunity for you to participate in the process of creating what this will be. We'll officially be kicking it off on March 29th, where leaders from around the country will be welcome to participate. And it's really for wherever you might be in that process of sharing with friends. Maybe you haven't even thought about it as an option for you. Some of you I know are already very successful in sharing and living, but we all have things that we dream of bringing to that process. So consider staying with us for, I'm going to say it's probably going to be about 20 minutes, where we'll get some things down on paper, planning this out, and I'm really excited about this particular series that's coming up. So if you'd like to stay and be a part of that same process, I'd love to have you join.